Gemini carries a secret that echoes across centuries, a hidden rhythm tied not just to the stars above, but to the very soul that reflects back like a mirror. For 333 years, the twin soul of Gemini has been bound by a silent curse, the curse of the mirror soul. It is not a curse of punishment, but of delay. It is the feeling of reaching for love, only to grasp shadows, of searching for understanding, only to find fragments, of speaking truth, yet being misunderstood by the very ones who matter most. This curse whispers through generations, weaving its threads through relationships, friendships, and even the deepest corners of self-identity. Gemini has long been asked to see in others what they cannot yet see in themselves. That is why the mirror soul feels both magnetic and painful, because what you love most about someone else is often what you struggle to accept within your own being. For centuries, Gemini has been caught between the longing for union and the ache of disconnection. But now, something stirs. The curse is breaking. For those born under Gemini or deeply connected to its energy, the year ahead marks a moment when the chains of misunderstanding and fractured reflection begin to dissolve. The cosmic tide that once held Gemini back now shifts in its favor. The mirror no longer distorts, it begins to reveal. Before we go deeper, I invite you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the sacred insights and revelations that can guide you toward the healing your spirit has been waiting for. To understand this curse is to look into the story of the twins themselves. Gemini is ruled by Mercury, the messenger of the gods, the traveler between worlds, the one who carries words from light to shadow. And yet the message has often been lost in translation. For 3 centuries, Gemini souls have wrestled with the pain of being unheard, unseen, or misunderstood. Their laughter was dismissed as masks, their depth mistaken for contradiction. But within every misstep, every failed connection, the soul of Gemini was gathering strength, preparing for the time when the mirror would no longer split their essence into fragments, but unify them as one. This breaking of the 333-year cycle is not just cosmic poetry, it is a shift in vibration. It is Gemini finally standing at the threshold of wholeness, where the pain of reflection turns into the gift of recognition. Imagine standing in front of a mirror your whole life, seeing parts of yourself but never the whole picture. Now, for the first time in lifetimes, the mirror clears. You recognize yourself fully, and in that recognition, you finally recognize the ones who walk beside you. The curse breaking means Gemini will begin to attract not fragments, but wholeness. It means the relationships that once drained will now nurture. The conversations that once confused will now clarify. The choices that once seemed scattered will begin to align with divine timing. Gemini, who has always been 2 in 1, is no longer torn apart, but brought together by the light of healing. This is why so many Geminis feel a restlessness right now. It is not just anxiety, it is the soul preparing for rebirth. When the mirror soul curse lifts, Gemini begins to live not in halves but in fullness. And with that fullness comes an energy that others cannot resist, an authenticity that shines beyond illusion. This shift will touch not only Geminis, but anyone connected to them, friends, lovers, family, even those who once misunderstood them. Because when Gemini heals, their reflection heals the world around them. For centuries, Gemini has carried the burden of being misunderstood, like a book written in a language the world was not ready to read. The curse of the mirror soul forced Gemini to seek completion outside themselves, always chasing after reflections that were broken, lovers who mirrored only fragments, friendships that echoed but never completed the song. This has been the silent wound of the twins, a yearning so deep it feels like hunger, yet never fully satisfied. But the breaking of the 333-year curse reveals a truth Gemini has been destined to learn. Completion was never outside, it was always within. The mirror never held the missing piece. It only revealed the shadows Gemini refused to embrace. Every heartbreak, every misunderstanding, every moment of feeling like two souls trapped in one body was preparing Gemini for the greatest revelation. You were never meant to find your reflection in others, but to recognize the divine reflection within yourself. This shift is why many Geminis now feel the urge to strip away false identities. The masks that once protected them no longer serve. They are learning that vulnerability is not weakness. It is the key that dissolves the curse. To open your heart, to admit your longing, to speak your truth, even when it shakes, that is how the mirror soul transforms. The curse thrived on silence, on denial, on pretending to be whole when broken. Its breaking comes when Gemini dares to be unapologetically authentic. In this moment of cosmic alignment, the world begins to see Gemini differently. What was once mistaken for contradiction is now recognized as complexity. What was once dismissed as indecision is now seen as divine flexibility. The very traits that carried the curse become the blessings that set Gemini apart. When you like this video, you help spread these messages to others who, like you, may be seeking to understand why their soul feels restless. Perhaps they too are living under the echo of this ancient cycle. The curse of the mirror soul has also influenced Gemini's relationships with love. Many Geminis have lived lifetimes of passionate beginnings that end in sudden silence. They have loved deeply but struggled to stay, drawn to what feels like their missing half, only to realize it was a reflection, not a true union. But now, as the cycle breaks, the pattern shifts. Gemini begins to attract love that stays, a partner who mirrors not their pain but their light. A bond not built on chasing what is lost, but celebrating what is found. This transformation also ripples into friendships. Gemini will notice old connections falling away. People who once resonated no longer fit into the vibration of healing. Do not fear these departures. The curse is breaking, and with it, the bonds that were tied to pain must loosen. In their place, new friendships, grounded in truth and balance, will arise. These are the souls who see the real Gemini, who honor both the laughter and the silence, who do not run from contradiction, but embrace it as part of the divine mystery. More than anything, this cycle prepares Gemini for spiritual awakening. The mirror soul has always been tied to destiny. When broken, Gemini not only heals themselves, but also becomes a guide for others. Your story becomes a mirror for the world, not one that distorts, but one that reveals. You become the proof that curses can be broken, cycles can end, and new light can begin. The breaking of the 333-year curse does not come without challenge. Transformation never arrives wrapped in ease. It asks for surrender, for letting go, for courage that feels almost unbearable. Gemini will feel the weight of decisions pressing harder than ever, as if the universe itself is asking, "Who are you without the curse?" For centuries, the mirror soul defined your patterns. Now, freed from its grip, you are invited to choose not from fear, but from truth. This is why so many Geminis may feel a storm inside right now. The storm is not punishment, it is cleansing. It is the shattering of illusions, the breaking of mirrors that no longer serve, the release of echoes that only replayed pain. The storm clears the path so that when Gemini steps forward, they step as one being, not two fragments trying to become whole. The soul no longer searches for itself in shadows. It begins to embody the light. The cosmic irony is that Gemini, who has always been seen as the sign of two, was never truly split. The curse made them feel divided, but the truth is unity. When this realization dawns, something extraordinary happens. Gemini discovers an energy so radiant, so magnetic, that others cannot help but notice. It is the kind of presence that lights up a room not because it is loud, but because it is real. The curse fractured the reflection, but the breaking brings wholeness, and wholeness is irresistible. This is why the world is drawn to Gemini, often without knowing why. They sense the depth, the laughter hiding sorrow, the brilliance hiding pain. With the curse lifted, that paradox no longer confuses, it inspires. People begin to see Gemini as they truly are, not chaotic but complex, not scattered but expansive, not contradictory but multidimensional. And in that recognition, Gemini becomes the living proof that wounds can turn into wisdom. This moment is not just for Gemini, but for everyone touched by their energy. If you have a Gemini in your life, know that their transformation will ripple into yours. Their healing will challenge you to confront your own reflections, your own illusions, your own half-truths. Gemini does not just heal alone, they carry others into the light with them. That is the gift of the messenger, the divine role Mercury bestows. It is also the reason why Gemini often feels both loved and envied. When wholeness begins to radiate, it disrupts those still hiding behind their own fractured mirrors. Some will resist, others will admire, but all will feel it. And through it, Gemini learns the final truth. You were never cursed to be broken. You were chosen to become the one who breaks the curse for others too.
So if you are Gemini, or if Gemini flows through your chart, pay attention to the signs. Synchronicities will guide you. Repeated numbers, especially 333, will show up like divine fingerprints, reminding you that the cycle is ending. Dreams will carry messages. Conversations will reveal truths you once missed. Every detail matters now, because the mirror is clearing, and the reflection you see is finally the one you were destined to embrace. Take a breath. Feel the weight lifting. The curse is breaking, and in its place a sacred invitation appears. To live fully, to love deeply, to speak your truth without fear. If this message resonates with you, take a moment to like this video. It is not just support, it is a declaration that you too are part of this shift, that you too are ready to step into the new light. When the curse of the mirror soul finally dissolves, Gemini steps into a destiny long delayed. No longer chained to the echoes of misunderstanding, they rise as guides, as voices that bridge the unseen with the visible, the divine with the human. The breaking of this cycle means that Gemini no longer carries the burden of reflecting pain. They now reflect possibility. They become proof that light can emerge from centuries of shadow, that cycles can break no matter how ancient, and that the soul was never meant to remain divided. This is the era where Gemini learns to trust their own reflection. They look into the mirror and see not two halves but one radiant being who carries both shadow and light, laughter and sorrow, wisdom and innocence. In that unity, their soul sings differently. The voice that was once misunderstood becomes a frequency others cannot ignore. Conversations shift, relationships deepen, and doors once closed begin to open with ease. Gemini no longer bends to fit into others, they expand, and the world bends toward them.
And perhaps the most beautiful truth, the love Gemini once longed for begins to appear, not as a chase, but as a natural arrival. The mirror soul curse kept them longing for external halves, but with the curse broken, love now arrives whole. Partnerships grow from recognition, not illusion, from clarity, not confusion. This is the love that stays, that nurtures, that celebrates the full spectrum of Gemini's soul. But remember, every curse broken comes with responsibility. Gemini's task now is not to slip back into patterns of chasing reflections, but to live as the reflection itself, a mirror of wholeness for the world. To speak truth even when silence is easier, to embrace both sides without shame, to carry the message of unity that Mercury whispers through them. This is their calling, their blessing, and their proof that a 333-year cycle can end in triumph. If you are listening to these words, consider this your sign. Perhaps the curse has touched you too, even if you are not Gemini. Perhaps you have felt divided, unseen, misunderstood. The breaking of this cycle is not limited. It ripples into every soul ready to embrace its wholeness. That is why you were led here, why your spirit recognized this message. You too are ready to step beyond illusion. Now I ask you, from a place of connection, share your date of birth and zodiac sign in the comments, not as a detail, but as a declaration that you are ready for this shift. Each soul that speaks their truth adds light to this moment, weaving a collective mirror that no curse can ever fracture again. If you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel so you remain guided through the cycles yet to come. And remember to like this video. It helps this message reach others who may still be trapped in the illusion, waiting for the mirror to clear. The curse of 333 years is breaking. Gemini rises, whole and luminous, and with them, the world sees that no cycle is eternal, no wound is ever forever, and no soul is ever truly divided. The mirror clears, the reflection shines, and at last the twins are free.